Hey there Facebook, it is Vanessa here again, your motivational speaker, trainer and head coach from Live, Love, Give. And today's message is all about the inner critic versus inner wisdom. And why I wanted to bring this to you is because I feel like this is the battle that is the difference between us reaching our limitless potential or staying small. It is really the difference between our limitation and our liberation. It is really the difference between, just love and fear, really, and everything brilliant in life and everything that we limit ourselves by. And that's why I felt called to bring today's message to you, because it's something that if you've been following along with what I've been writing about recently, I've had over the last week some sort of different things, sort of unhealthy patterns come back into play that I haven't experienced in a while. And I've been building this new layer of self-awareness around what's been going on for myself. And I have noticed how my inner critic I've kind of been waking up with my inner critic. And before I was conscious of what was going on, I was just kind of going along with this inner critic and not really being totally conscious of what was what was actually happening, just not feeling great. And because it was happening again consistently on a day-to-day basis, I had to do something about it and bring some self-awareness around the fact that I had allowed the voice of my inner critic to drown out the voice of my inner wisdom. And we as human beings, we're living this battle day in, day out, I believe. And what happens is what our natural default is to protect ourselves with the negative. So that inner critic's voice gets louder than the inner wisdom, and it takes intention, it takes consciousness, and it takes more effort to, drown out the voice of the inner critic and up the volume on our inner wisdom. And you have to get intentional, and that's what I really want to bring this message to you guys, in the hope that it'll get you more clear, more consciously aware of what voice is currently louder for you. And you'll notice with your results in life, if you're not feeling like you're progressing, if you're kind of feeling like you're staying stuck, you're getting caught in some loops, you're feeling kind of triggered, you're feeling like you're kind of reacting emotionally to things that deep down like they just don't count for that sort of height of your emotions, then you really need to recognize that you've most likely allowed the voice of your inner critic to drown out the voice of your inner wisdom. And the way out of these sort of feelings, these emotional roller coasters, is to just get intentional about what are our rituals. What are we doing on a daily basis that gets us in a great emotional state? And oftentimes what we need to do is we need to sit down with ourselves and we need to question what we've been thinking and believing. We need to question what this inner critic is sort of been, taking over our lives with, and in our negativity, in our thoughts, in our actions, in everything. And we need to get intentional about what would our higher self do here, and sort of become our own coach in a lot of ways to sort of find a more empowering belief, find a more empowering mindset in order to up that volume on our inner wisdom. Because at the end of the day, it is the inner wisdom that allows us to create a really fulfilling life. It's the inner wisdom that allows us to have satisfaction along the journey of reaching our goals, not just this one-stop shop for this momentary time and lapse in time when we actually achieve a result and then we're on to the next thing, because the inner critic, nothing is ever good enough for the inner critic. We can never, it doesn't matter how well we do, if we're listening to the voice of the inner critic, nothing's ever good enough. We never feel totally fulfilled. We might have a few ups, but we have massive downs, and we're consistently in the negative, in disempowered states. And on the flip side, when we get intentional about making the inner wisdom win, drowning out the inner critic with the inner wisdom, that's when life becomes easy. That's when we start really getting consistent results and ultimate fulfillment in our lives. So I'm really hoping that, this is resonating with you guys, and it's getting you thinking about which voice in your internal world you've been allowing to sort of run the show. And my hope is that it's been the inner wisdom. But if you're human like me, we're going to have these ups and downs, and sometimes we just need to be triggered with that thought again, to recognize that, hey, I'm consistently not feeling the progress. I'm consistently not feeling that great. And I'm getting trapped in these negative emotions and confusion. And let that be an alert to you that you're listening more intently to your inner critic as opposed to your inner wisdom. So I want to check in with you guys. As always, make sure that you are dropping any questions, comments, feedback, all of it below. I love getting your questions. I love interacting with you guys, as you guys know. So definitely help me out with that. And I love having you here, Andrew and Bassam and Tahia and Lizzie and Arthur and Andrew and Manolo and Gail and Mike and Hassani and Josie and Misty. Good evening to you. I love that this is great timing. And Muritesh, nice of you to join me. Fernando from Los Angeles, I love it. And Sharon, good afternoon. You always pop up when I need a talking to. Awesome. I love that I'm entering your newsfeed just as you need a little message. Thanks, Sharon. And thanks, Tahia and Kaden. Awesome to have you. Jay's in the house. I love it. And Dennis, I love it. And yeah, Misty, I love it. But I like to just be transparent. I'm 30 years old, if you didn't know, if you really want to know. Yes, and thanks, Misty. And Marcello, not sure about that, but thanks for being here. And Yusman and Mohammed and Dave and Caden's back. I love it. And Aline and Jolene and Jacqueline. I love it, guys. And Hassani. Awesome. I love when you comment. It's funny you mentioned rituals. I was just thinking about this because I've just discovered something that's really helping me with my rituals and habits. It's a site and app called Habitica. Okay, and love it. And it's the best habit creating software I've ever seen. Awesome. And I love when you share these apps. I know it's a real sort of specialty of yours, Hassani. So thanks for sharing. I can't wait to check it out. And I love that you are focused on rituals and habits. We are what we consistently do. So it's so important to get intentional about the kind of habits that we're interacting with and engaging in every single day, because it's ultimately those daily habits that lead to our long-term results. So you want to be intentional about that stuff. I ideally think about creating those more longer term goals and then chunking it down into what are the daily consistent actions that will help me reach that goal, and making sure that you're seriously intentional with doing that. And if it takes an app to help you with that, I love it. I'll definitely be checking that out, Hassani. Thanks for sharing. And Miritesh, you want to improve skills like how to do group discussion, behavior, joining in group, personal development, please send good trainer link and I will see in YouTube. Okay, let me get back to you with that, Miritesh. Thank you. And Kaden, true, lies are against us. Our true self is full of innovation, intuition, and inner wisdom. Always lead with love and follow that voice only. Most definitely, because it is the voice of the inner critic that is always coming from fear, and the voice of your inner wisdom, which is always coming from love. And I know which path I'd much rather be on, because that love path is always going to empower us, energize us, and it's that fear path that's always going to disempower us, de-energize us, and keep us small, limited beings, when we actually have limitless potential that is ready and raring to be accessed. But we can only do it when we tune in fully to that inner wisdom. So thanks for sharing your words of wisdom there, Kaden. I always love them. And Brian, as always, very insightful. Oh, glad that you're finding this insightful and practical, Brian. Thanks so much for being here. And Misty, my inner voice is the cynical voice. I'm trying to work on it, but it is a slow process. It's very hard not to be cynical in today's world. Yeah, and you know, Misty, you know, that inner voice, I like to think of us having two inner voices. You know, we have that inner voice which comes from fear, which is the inner critic, and we have that inner voice which is coming from love, which is our highest self, that inner wisdom. And so if we learn to attune to both, I think it's important to face our fears, and that's what our inner critic gives us, so much insight into all of our deepest fears. So I don't say ignore the inner critic. I say, you know, follow it, find out where, like, it gives you so much gold to work with, where that cynical voice, you know, why is it cynical? You know, what does it need? We need to listen to it. We need to identify, shine light on our fears so that we can ultimately overcome them and break through those limiting beliefs. But yeah, definitely it is no easy journey in drowning out that more cynical voice and upping the level of the higher self, the one that is coming from love. It's you know, that higher version of and higher perspective. And yeah, so I know it's a journey, but it is one certainly worth your time, energy, and effort. I think one of the most valuable journeys anybody can go on is definitely tapping into the higher self, that inner wisdom, and identifying and disidentifying from that fearful voice, that inner critic. You know, acknowledge it, don't identify with it, and instead use your inner wisdom, that higher self, to coach and nurture that inner critic, because that's ultimately what it needs, is compassion, self-acceptance. And yeah, it's no easy journey, but one worth definitely going on. So I love you sharing here, Misty. And Carmen, I've gotten better over the years, but I have fought this all my life. Like all of us, Carmen, you know, no matter who you are, no matter where in the world you are, we are all in this battle between our inner critic and our inner wisdom. And the most successful people in the world have just learned to adjust the volume on each. You know, they've learned to drown out those negative voices and have the courage to feel the fear and do it anyway. You know, feel the fear that comes from the inner critic and still operate from the higher self. That is just, you know, one of the best things that we can be doing for ourselves to reach our highest potential, if not the absolute best. So yeah, I'm definitely feeling into what you're saying there, Carmen, and the battle that we all have. I love you sharing that. And Mitik, I don't think I said your name right, but thanks for being here. And Laval, good morning to you. And Eric and Cindy, thanks for joining. And Gamal and Robin and Ali and Kaden, yeah, unlimited potential, love it. And Rambia, thanks for joining. And Robin, each man's life represents a road towards himself, an attempt at such a road and intimation of a path. But each of us, experiments of the depths, strives towards his own destiny. We can understand one another, but each of us is able to interpret himself to himself alone. Yeah, okay, so I'm not totally sure I got exactly what you mean there, Robin, but I think that we're on the same page there in terms of, you know, being able to listen into your own inner critic and your own inner wisdom, and, you know, being on that journey yourself, you know, for yourself. You know, you can know yourself much better than anybody else can know you as an individual, but there are those similarities that allow us to recognize that we're all battling our own inner critic, and we're all striving to step into our own unique higher self, and that is the journey to be had. Thanks for sharing here, Robin. And Todd, awesome to have you. And Marcello, I'm sorry I can't read the language that you've put there. Jimmy, awesome to have you. And Robin, Turn down the volume of the negative inner voice and create a nurturing inner voice to take its place. When you make a mistake, forgive yourself, learn from it, move on instead of obsessing about it. Equally important, don't allow anyone else to dwell on your mistakes or shortcomings and to expect perfection from you. Beautifully put, Robin. I completely agree. It is definitely all about shifting the volume and definitely giving that nurturing, that compassion, that self-acceptance to the inner critic, because ultimately that's what it's crying out for. If everything in life is either a call for love or an expression of love, then we know that the inner critic is always calling out for love. You know, it's always coming from that fearful place. So it's always calling out for your love, and your inner wisdom, your higher self, is always operating from an expression of love. It's a real strength. So I like to think about things in terms of that way, which is, you know, a lesson that I learned from A Course in Miracles, which just brilliant. It really puts things in perspective. So I hope that's helpful. And Hansi and Ashley and Moises, thanks for being here. And George, accomplishing your goals is very important in your success. Mostly being happy as is what matters most. Yes, exactly, George, most definitely. And that's why it's so important to tap into your inner wisdom and let that guide you towards your goals, because your inner wisdom allows you to enjoy the journey and reap the rewards, as opposed to your inner critic that's always so like its happiness lies out there in the future somewhere. And maybe you attain your goal, but it's so short-lived because you're on to the next thing, because nothing's ever good enough for that inner critic. So definitely tapping into the inner wisdom, allowing that to guide you towards those ever important goals. Love it there, George. You're so welcome, Carmen. And Hassani, Ali is like, I like your last name. Sorry, V, didn't mean to interrupt. That's all right. I love it. And Andres, thanks for being here. And Ram and Victoria and Tina and Patel and Ernie. Awesome to have you guys. And yes, Caden. Yes, indeed, Robin. Yeah, dwelling is the first anchor to what needs to be left behind. Most definitely. Again, guys, I'm loving your interaction with one another. It always lights me up. I love sort of building a bit of a community here. And I love seeing you guys come back day after day after day. Just want to throw that in. It really lights me up. And Eric, how do I put a stop to my inner voice who tells me you can't do this because some people don't believe in me? How can I believe after that? Please give me a cue, Vanessa. Awesome. Thanks for putting in your question here, Eric. I love it, and sharing your experience. Now, this is the battle. This is the battle that we're constantly in, that we're talking about today. That, you know, that constant battle between the inner critic that says you can't do it and the inner wisdom that always knows you can. And so it's about finding a practice, a ritual that will allow you to create the time and space to get intentional about tapping into the inner wisdom. Like I said, when we live life by default, we are just constantly bombarded by that inner critic. And when we start designing how we want our life to be, we start getting intentional. And yes, it takes more effort because we have to slow down in this busy world and tap into and ask the question of our higher self, and identify what our inner critic is telling us we can't do, and all the reasons why that is just not right. You know, it's why it's absolute crap. You know, how can we identify what those limiting beliefs are and bust through them with our higher self is through a coaching process that we can do by getting into our own time, energy and space, and getting intentional about turning those limiting beliefs around and finding the reasons why they're not true. And so many of us, like I'm really feeling into that experience that you're talking about, Eric, is when other people don't believe in us, you know, and we're overvaluing the voices in the outside world. Again, we're letting those outweigh and drown out that inner wisdom of our higher self that always knows that we can. And ultimately, that is our pathway to reaching our our potential, right? So what I would say to you is that it is a practice. It's not easy. And what I would say to you is that the only way really out is to tap into the inner wisdom and make that voice much louder than the inner critic that's telling you that you can't, or those external voices that are telling you that you can't. And ultimately, there's another process that you can do, which is, I like to call it the courage generators. And it's about creating a list of, reflecting back in your life about all of those times in your life where you proved to yourself that you could do it. You reflect back to those times in your life that you're really proud of, that you made something happen, despite other people's limiting beliefs or despite your own. And when we can start to see that we have built resilience, we have built strength, we have had courage to break through and defy the odds, then that creating a list like that we can start to continue to add to and begin to reflect upon whenever we recognize that we're getting caught up in that can't do it mindset. That is another little quick tool that I would really encourage each and every one of you to start identifying. Start creating your list of courage generators. Once we get off this live video, I encourage you to just take out a piece of paper or write it on your notes on your phone and just start listing, what are some moments in my life that I've been really proud of? When have I broken through despite the odds? When have I proven to myself that I could do something? As small as, even the smallest things to the big things, the smallest things like, you lifted something ridiculously heavy in the gym, that's something that helps you to show you that the mind and your limiting beliefs that say you can't do it aren't always correct. And to the big things as well, those times where you stepped up in the face of crisis, something bad happened, you stepped up and showed that of what's possible to yourself and to others, whatever it is. I encourage you to start creating a list of your courage generators that you can call upon whenever you fall into self-doubt and whenever that voice of the inner critic starts turning up its volume, so that you can ultimately turn it down, listen to it, turn it down, and up the volume on your inner wisdom. And any time that you feel those negative voices either coming from the inner critic or coming from those external places with other people, you've got to just start to create those kind of rituals that are going to help you up the volume on your inner wisdom. I really hope that was valuable and not too long-winded there for you, Eric. I appreciate your question. And Ram, thanks for being here. And Judy, thank you so much. And Hassani, listen to an awesome guided meditation this morning on an insight timer about self-love and acceptance. I love you and I am listening was a beautiful recurring mantra. Sarah Blondin on Insight Timer app is awesome and so insightful. Awesome. Again, I can't wait to check that out, Hassani. Thanks so much for sharing. And yeah, that is so beautiful, that mantra. I love you and I'm listening. That is kind of what the inner critic is after. Like I said, it's always coming from, it's a call for love and it's coming from fear, and the antidote to fear is always love. And so if we just listen and send it love, acceptance, compassion, move past it and operate from our highest self. Listen to the inner critic, give it self-love, give it compassion, acceptance, but don't operate from that place. Allow it to, be heard so that you can be your highest self. Hope that was valuable. And Stuart, thanks for being here. Robin, self-criticism is typically experienced as negative internal thoughts about oneself, or more specifically about one's behaviors or attributes. When self-critical thoughts apply broadly rather than focus on a particular behavior, they may be more likely to impact well-being negatively. Yeah, most definitely. And I love that you've brought up how our self-criticism can often come through our criticism of what we do, or how we look, instead of, focusing on who we really are. You know, I like to say, you know, a lot of times when we show love to ourselves or to others, we're so focused on our behaviors and we're so focused on our physical attributes that we miss the point of love, and we can't ultimately build extraordinary quality of relationship with ourselves if we're so hyper focused on behavior and attributes as opposed to who we are on the deepest level. And that's all about tapping into that higher self. So love you sharing here as always, Robin. And Eric, I have trouble to believe in myself for a few days after that. Okay, so I'm not sure about what you mean by the few days after that, but you have trouble believing in yourself. You know, a great little ritual that I don't do anymore, but it really helped me when I was really starting to build my belief in myself and be really conscious about how I was showing up with that, is a belief scale. So identifying each day, so with my journaling practice, and I'm just throwing a little tool out here in the hope that it might help some of you guys out there who are looking to enhance the belief that you have in yourself. It firstly takes self-awareness around what that even looks like. So for me, you know, having this making it measurable. So every day I was checking in with myself with the belief scale, which is like a scale of 0 to 10. You might write it on paper and you ask yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being no self-belief, 10 being total self-belief, where am I situated today? How much am I believing and trusting in myself? And you know, you might put a 5 there. And then identifying, okay, well, why have I given this score? Like, why have I given myself a score of 5 today? What does that look like? You might say, well, I've got a few self-doubts. I'm doubting this thing that I've got to do today, but I'm not totally doubting myself, blah, 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 blah. Just getting that clarity, self-awareness, and then identifying what it looks like to be a 10 out of 10. What would it look like? You know, and you might need to step it up a bit. You might need to start with what does a 7 look like, and an 8, and going through it like that. But ultimately, if we can have some sort of little ritual that allows us to check in each day with where our self-belief is, because ultimately, you know, your self-belief is that foundational piece to getting all of the results that you really want to in your life and sustaining long-term progress. So it's really important to have a level of self-awareness around where your self-belief is, identifying you know, why it's like that, and identifying what it will look like to be better so that you can have something to move toward, rather than just, you know, just going by the whims of life and getting caught up in the inner critic and kind of being really just like up and down with our results and our progress in life, and, you know, kind of just getting stuck in allowing the inner critic to run the show, as opposed to getting intentional with little rituals of self-awareness and allowing us to create a pathway of progress. Hope that was helpful to you, Eric. And Joseph, thanks for being here. I love that this is resonating, Ram. Taylor, thanks for being here. And thank you so much for your kind words there, Moises. Appreciate them. And same to you, Eric. I'm so grateful that this is helpful. And Robin, our inner wisdom is persistent but quiet. It will always whisper, but it will never stop knocking at your door. Yeah, and we never want it to, you know. And what I would say is that so too is our inner critic. But it's, you know, so that battle is always on. So our journey in life and progression and self-development is always about, you know, like I'm saying, giving that self-love and acceptance and compassion to that inner critic, but letting our higher self, our inner wisdom, lead the show, you know, really turning the volume up on that. And grateful that it's always knocking and never stopping. Thanks for sharing here, Robin. And yes, so let me just see here. Kaden, all excellent advice, grateful to hear that, and love that you guys are sharing in here. Let me just read what Georgia said to Eric. Remember, everyone has their 2 cents in your dream. It's always best to just hear them out, but stay focused on your goals and dreams. Believe me, I've had people that have encouraged me through my journey, and of course the naysayers. Keep moving forward, stay strong, and surround yourself with those that will be by your side Vanessa is right. You can accomplish so much and yet you seek positive feedback from those you like and they aren't so supportive. So watch who is really going to be by your side. Being happy and in control is what will get you through. I love that you're sharing here, George. As I always say, I'm really enjoying seeing you guys helping each other out. It really touches my heart. So thanks to everybody, every one of you who is doing that lately. I'm just really, really loving it. And it's so beautiful to see that. And yes, George, that's so, so true what you've said there. And, you know, we need to be mindful about who we are, like, why are we sharing these dreams with those people in our lives? If it's, you know, if we're strong and solid in them and we're doing this for ourselves and it is on our authentic path, that's great, but that's very different to, you know, trying to seek that external validation and approval from others. So when they become the naysayers or they doubt us, if that throws us off our course, then we need to do the work on ourselves to get back in alignment with our truth and operating from that place for ourselves and for our higher self, as opposed to just doing it because we need that validation approval from others. And there is so many lessons to be learned when we find and we build that self-awareness around why we're triggered there. So I love that you're bringing that up, George. Thank you so much. And Emily and Kamang and Samuel and Michelle, awesome of you guys to be here. And Marcello from Central America, I love it. And Frank and Jay, thanks for being here. And Maggie and Ram, it's important to make use of inner wisdom, habitual. Yes, and else we easily slip into old ways. Initially, we need to exercise through proactive practice, which eventually becomes a way of life. Most definitely, it's all about creating these kind of rituals that become our daily habits, where we don't need any motivation, willpower. We have made it a part of who we are. And you are spot on there, Ram, that we need to be absolutely intentional and proactive in terms of creating these rituals and these habits that are going to actually allow us to step up the volume of that inner wisdom, so that we can really let that take the lead, because ultimately that is our pathway to reaching our highest potential and definitely having fulfillment along the journey. So thanks so much for sharing, as always, Ram. Christian, awesome to have you. And Samuel, I'm losing my mind today. Samuela, thanks for being here. Thank you, Christian. I love seeing you here. And Robin, when wisdom arises, our inherent power as a being naturally arises as well. And then we begin to view things differently. We begin to see things based on the truth that we have found inside, not the truth that is imposed by others on us. Wow, Robin, I absolutely love what you've just said there. And most definitely, and the sooner we get attuned to, you know, the truth that we find on the inside, wow, does life change? You know, wow, do we become energized? Wow, do we feel empowered and strengthened, and we become inspirational to others? So I really resonate with what you've just said there, Robin. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, definitely, whenever we are feeling disempowered or unenergized in our lives, it's because we are letting the voices in the external world and our inner critic take over the show, as opposed to tapping into that truth that we can only find within ourselves, that comes from our highest self. So I love that, Robin. Thank you so much for sharing. And Hassani, knowing I'm making progress is my biggest builder in my self-belief. Progress, no matter how small, is still progress. So one more app for you. Elevate app has been awesome in helping me in this area. Okay, last app of the day. I love it, Hassani. Oh my gosh, you've given me, it's going to take over my afternoon checking out these amazing apps. But yes, I totally agree. You know, I always say that happiness equals progress. We are happy in our lives when we have a sense of progress, and you're spot on that it doesn't matter how big or small the progress is. What matters is that we are progressing. We do feel like we're learning, growing, becoming better in any small way. that is really where our happiness, joy, fulfillment is born. So I definitely agree with that. Hassani, thanks again for sharing. Haley, thanks for joining. And Reena, love having you guys. And Ram, in India, today, 5th of September, is celebrated as Teachers' Day. I wish all a very happy Teachers' Day. Through this forum, there is so much learning and value addition to all. Awesome. So cool. I love that it's Teachers' Day in India. Thank you for letting us know. I always love hearing about, these different events and everything going on in the different corners of the globe. So thanks for sharing, Ram. And I'm so grateful that you're finding value in these videos. That's really, really meaningful to me. So thank you so much for sharing. And guys, that is my message for you guys today. I've appreciated so much all of you putting in your words of wisdom, into interacting, engaging with one another, helping each other out. It's so beautiful. And I'm going to be creating, you guys have just alerted me, I might as well just share it with you. I'm going to start creating an inner circle, so more of a community where each and every one of you guys who are so beautiful to one another can join a special group, and all free, all just a way of building a really special network of extraordinary quality of people who all want to learn, grow, develop, support one another, and ultimately reach our highest potential. So if that's interesting to you, definitely drop a comment below. Let me know you want to join the inner circle, create this amazing community that you guys are already doing in the comment section on all of these videos. And I can't wait to step it up and really create an awesome network of all of you incredible human beings. You've all inspired me to do that, so I'm definitely going to be making that happen. And yes, Kaden, I love that you're thinking that would be awesome. And much love and wellness to you as well. Have a great evening. And definitely, Victoria, stop wanting, start creating. Definitely. Get intentional. Definitely. Make it happen. Get into the action. And awesome, Hassani. I love that you're into it. We'll definitely be in the group. And love that you're putting the thumbs up there, Eric. And awesome, Carmen. All right, you guys are inspiring me to start this sooner rather than later. And I will get that operating for you guys. I think it'll be so powerful to just be connected with all of you extraordinary people in another sort of platform where we can all support one another on a deeper level, and keep these Facebook Lives definitely going. But I can't wait to create that community and deepen that with you guys, because you're all just light me up and it's amazing. So awesome, Nancy. Awesome. And Ram, love that you guys are loving it. I'm going to start it for you guys. So guys, I'm sending you all of my love, light, blessings, gratitude, energy, enthusiasm, everything beautiful coming to you, to wherever you are in the world today. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you know that, and I hope you feel it. I hope you feel this, all the love that I send to you guys each and every day from this little corner of the globe in Australia. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Much love to you all.